Welcome back to another edition of Get Well Acadiana with Dr. Kevin. Thank you so much for joining me today. I truly appreciate you all deciding to spend your Saturday morning with us here and learning how to improve your health. I'm here with my co-host Brandon Como, who I have now dubbed the hardest working man at KPEL. He's everywhere. He's doing Friday night football. He was at Moss Motors this week. He has his own show at 4 o'clock every weekday called Offsides. He's everywhere.
Well, I'm just having a blast, man.
Yeah.
I really am, and all of those things you just mentioned there are things that excite me and things that it's a part of, I can't believe I get to do this for a living.
Right,
sometimes.
right.
It's really cool.
That's like me. If we enjoy what we do, it's not like we get up and come to work every day.
Exactly.
This is the show with a purpose, and I'm so driven, exactly what we're talking about, every day to try to change people's lives. And, I jump out of bed ready to go every morning to do what I do. It's such a pleasure. This is the show that's designed to be more than just something interesting to listen to every Saturday morning. The purpose of this show is to give you real-world solutions for today's most complicated health problems. And I personally have been on a 20-year quest to try to help as many people as possible live a better life by using drug-free solutions to today's most complicated health problems. And, Brandon, I've been fortunate enough to be rated in the top 10% of wellness practitioners in the country because I firmly believe that there are better answers out there than what we're doing for these chronic diseases like diabetes and heart disease and thyroid and hormone problems and all of these depressive and anxiety type problems and even things like fibromyalgia and all these kids disorders and attention problems. I mean, there's better solutions out there than what we're doing. All of these chronic diseases have things that you can do in order to try to make yourself better. But the problem is we're not even really looking for solutions. We're looking for quick patch-up jobs. Brandon, I was reading the other day, opiate addiction is up 500% in the last 7 years. 91 people now die from opiate overdose every single day. And I was looking at some of these new statistics, and they said that 81% of heroin addicts started with a pain medicine prescription. And then it just got out of hand. So America now takes 50% of all the pharmaceutical drugs on planet Earth, yet we are just 4% of the world's population. We have more doctors and hospitals than any other country in the world, and we spend more on health care than most of the other world combined, yet China and Cambodia have a longer life expectancy than we do. In the United States of America. So if the answer to achieving a long, healthy life was hospitals, doctors, pharmaceutical drugs, and money, shouldn't we live to be like 120? And that's not happening. In fact, far from it. Many other countries have a longer life expectancy than we do, including Cambodia. Now, some places in Cambodia, they still have dirt floors and they're miles away from any type of health care whatsoever. And they outlive us in the United States of America. So this show is about how we can turn this around, and we need to turn it around as quickly as possible. Because the only solution for our healthcare disaster that we have in America is wellness and prevention. The only answer to cut our healthcare costs is an exact 180 degrees from what we're headed. And that doesn't just apply to our healthcare system, but it applies to your individual health out there listening for the problems that you're suffering with. A 180-degree turn from where the typical person is going in order to try to solve their health problems. We have to come up with a much better common sense strategy to solve your health problems once and for all. Now, today's show is part 2. Last week's show, we discussed chronic pain, and we ran out of time. So if you missed last week's show, you need to go and listen to that show. All you have to do is go to our clinic Facebook page at Bright Wellness Institutes, and you can find the show on there. I'll also do a live show there on Thursdays at noon on our Facebook page called Dr. Kevin Live and Online. But my goal for last week's show was to give you 5 new technologies for chronic pain, and we ran out of time. So I promised that we would have a part 2 for chronic pain to finish up the show, and that's what today is going to be all about. Now, on last week's show, we talked about the fact that chronic pain has many different names and many different labels. It doesn't matter what you've been diagnosed with, if they called it fibromyalgia, arthritis, migraines, rotator cuff tears, even this silly bone-on-bone thing that I talked about last week. You know, I have patient after patient tell me they were told their joints are this, quote, bone-on-bone, and I've been looking at these cases for 20 years now, and I've never actually seen one. So I guess it sounds scary, it creates this picture in your mind, but I've never actually seen a person's joints that were bone-on-bone when they've been told that, and I've looked at hundreds of them. But it doesn't matter what you've been labeled as. Pain has some commonalities in the body. We said that pain is a signal that your body sends you telling you damage is being done. It's not what's wrong with you, but it's telling you something is wrong with you. It's like your check engine light on your car coming on telling you there's a problem. So you wouldn't put tape over your check engine light of your brand new car and ignore it. So why would you do that for your body? Just popping your 4 Advil every morning and ignoring it, or relying on these terrible opiates, is never getting to the underlying reasons that your body is hurting. So the pain is not the problem. It's whatever's causing it that's the problem. If I touch a hot stove and I feel pain at my arm, I could inject a nerve, but it's never going to really get to the underlying cause of the problem. One of the other things that I was teaching about last week, and this is very unfortunate that I see all the time, it's what we call behavioral adaptation. No, Doc, I don't plant my garden anymore. I just can't do that. Or Doc, I don't go for my walks anymore. I just can't. Or you know, I used to enjoy playing with the grandkids and I can't hardly do that anymore. This is called behavioral adaptation. And this is very unfortunate because pretty soon this person has literally adapted themselves around their health problems to the point where they've lost all enjoyment in life. This person is pretty soon, they're just existing. And this is very unfortunate, especially when natural solutions exist to help them. It's just no one has either taken the time to figure it out for them, or maybe they has had the expertise to solve it for them. Now, sometimes people even feel like they've gotten their answers to what's wrong with them as long as they've been labeled as something. They've labeled their pain as a quote-unquote sort of diagnosis. I'll give you a perfect example of this. I was having a phone conversation with a lady one time, trying to see if I could help her, and she was describing this terrible pain that she was having in her head to me, and she was describing how long it's been there and where it was located and kind of how it felt and when. And I was taking notes of all this, and at the bottom of my notes, I wrote temporal headaches. Now, I didn't tell her that, but that's what I had written on my notes. So she was busy at the time, and she asked me to check back with her later. So about 2 weeks went by, and I called her to check on her to see how she was doing with it, and she said, "Oh, no, Doc, I figured this out. I went to a headache specialist in Houston, and I spent 3 days over there, and I finally found this brilliant doctor who figured out what was wrong with me. He's a specialist." I was expecting her to say pituitary tumor or some sort of a rare vascular issue. She said, "This amazing doctor figured it out for me. I have temporal headaches." I almost dropped the phone. I wrote that on my notes after a 5-minute phone conversation. Nothing had been figured out. Temporal headaches are not what's wrong. That's not the problem. That's the symptom. That's just a description of what she was telling us about. So she went and spent all this money, probably $20,000 or $30,000 for a label. So can you guys begin to understand why I'm so driven to help as many people as possible put some common sense back into what we're doing? So I followed that up with her. I said, "Well, what's causing that? Like, in other words, what's causing your temporal headaches?" And she said, "Oh, they just said it happens sometimes." We have to begin to figure out why. We have to keep asking the why is that? Where is that coming from? Until we boil it down to its very finest point, to the very cellular level itself. And that's what our version of functional medicine is all about at Bryant Wellness. Now, before we go to break, if you want to have a phone conversation with me about your health, I'd be more than happy to give you a call on the phone Monday whenever I get back to work and talk to you about your health condition to see if we think our protocols would be able to help you. My phone number is 837-7174. You can just call my office and leave your name and number on the machine, and when I get back to work Monday, I will personally call you back and talk to you on the phone about your health problems and see if I think you're a fit for our program. The number is 837-7174, or easier than that, you can just text PAIN to 77453. All you have to do with your phone, it's real simple. You just text the word PAIN to 77453, and your number will pop right up on my computer Monday, and I can give you a call back to see if I can help you. I'll give you a call, we'll have a little phone conversation, and we'll see if I think that I can add anything to your health problems and see if we can get you better. This is Get Well Acadiana. I'm Dr. Kevin. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Get Well Acadiana. Thank you for coming back with us today. I'm Dr. Kevin. I'm here with my co-host Brandon Como, and today's show is on some amazing new advancements for chronic pain. And my goal on last week's show was to give you 5 new technologies that you've never heard of before that are tremendous advancements for chronic pain patients. Labeling it is not an answer. Going to a specialist and getting a label and thinking the whole thing has been figured out is really not a very smart way of looking at your health or your future. The system of healthcare that we have that puts so much emphasis on a label is one of the reasons why our healthcare system is in such trouble. Think about this for 1 second. If your sinuses are all stuffy and inflamed, and you go to the doctor and he says, well, you have sinusitis, itis means inflammation, and so basically that diagnosis says you have inflamed sinuses. Didn't you know that already before you went in? Isn't that why you went in the first place? Or if your stomach's all achy and inflamed, and you go to the doctor and he says you have gastritis. Well, gastro means stomach, and itis means inflammation, so you didn't really answer anything. Or if you go to the doctor and you have pain down your leg and he says, well, you have sciatica. Well, if you look sciatica up in the medical dictionary, it says pain or numbness down the leg. So you knew that already when you went in. So I think it's kind of silly that when you think about this, because labeling something that you could have looked up in a medical dictionary doesn't really figure anything out. So it's time for an entirely new approach. We need to move beyond labels and diagnoses. My protocols are continually asking the question of why until we get down to its very finest point. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is where the answers lie. That's where the solutions exist. To keep digging and digging and digging until we get down to the very cellular level itself. And we ask ourselves, why are the cells doing what they're doing? And how can we get them to do something different? How can we get them to perform better? And that's the big difference between traditional healthcare and our version of functional medicine. If I were to ask you to name a disease or a condition, so just think about this. If I were to say, name a disease or a condition that's been cured in the last 50 years in American healthcare, go. It doesn't have to be a big one. Doesn't have to be it can be something however small. Name a condition that's been cured in the last 50 years, go. So Brandon, roll the crickets chirping, right? So this is my passion. This is what drives me every day to wake up and do my very best to find the most advanced, most effective technologies and techniques available to help as many people as possible without drugs or surgery. So on last week's show, we covered 2 new technologies that I wanted to review with you real quickly. And then I have a few more for you today. So the first technology we talked about last week was rapid release. So rapid release is very effective at breaking down scar tissue and fibrous adhesions. Now, scar tissue and fibrous adhesions occur after tissue is damaged. People don't think they have, or maybe they think they haven't had a lot of injuries in their lifetime. But the truth is that people have a lifetime of little small injuries to their body that didn't seem like a big deal to them at the time. Maybe they were sore a day or two and then they got better. Or it wasn't enough, but it was enough of an injury to develop scar tissue and fibrous adhesions. So the average person has had 1,000 little physical traumas to their body that they didn't think was a big deal at the time, but actually was bad enough to create micro tears in the tissue, scar tissue, and fibrous adhesions. So maybe you played high school football and you injured it a little. Then you were maybe a couple of small car accidents, and then you maybe had a gym injury, or maybe you were lifting groceries out of the truck, or maybe you were weed eating, and you got sore for a day or two and then it got better. Well, in your mind, that doesn't seem like an injury. But over time, these things develop scar tissue and fibrous adhesions. And as you get older, these fibrous adhesions start to hurt you. These are very, very painful. And you can feel these little marbly, gristly type tissue under the skin. So if you run your fingers across the tissue where it hurts, you'll feel like these little marbles or these little pebbles underneath there. These are from old micro tears, and they are a great source of pain. These fibrous adhesions are loaded with pain receptors. Now, rapid release can specifically target these fibrous adhesions and cause them to break down and to break up without affecting the tissue around it. So rapid release resonates at the same frequency that causes scar tissue and fibrous adhesions to break down and go away. But fibrous adhesions are a huge source of chronic pain. We see these loaded up in chronic pain patients, especially with like fibromyalgia and arthritis type patients. Now, we don't have to do this deep tissue work anymore where we press in and break these things up manually. That is if you've ever had that done, that is a very, very painful treatment to have done. Although it helps the problem, it's very, very painful, especially if someone already has chronic pain. Rapid release breaks these things down without having to do that very painful treatment. It's really an amazing advancement for chronic pain. If you want to know more about it, you can go catch last week's show on our Facebook page at the Bryant Wellness Institutes, and I expand on that a lot more. The second technology we went over last week is a new technology we have called dry needling. And what we said about that was whenever the area of the body begins to go into pain, so any area of your body, whenever you get pain there, the body's response is to tighten or to splint all of the tissues around that pain as a protective mechanism. So if you have pain in your shoulder, the muscles and tendons are going to tighten and splint around that area to protect it. But this becomes a problem when the body's own splinting reflex contracts those tissues too hard, because on occasion, as the tissues over-tighten, it can get so tight that it pushes the blood flow out. And that's not good because the blood contains all the oxygen and healing chemicals that it needs to feel better. So when the splinting mechanism works too well, it stops the circulation, and that stops healing and causes it to hurt worse, which makes the tissues get even tighter, which pushes more blood flow out, which contracts it worse, which makes it hurt even worse again. And now you have this downward spiral of pain, spasm, lack of oxygen, more pain, more spasm, more lack of oxygen. That's the difference, ladies and gentlemen, between acute pain, meaning it hurts and then goes away, or something that turns to chronic pain, meaning it starts hurting and does not go away. Now, this is really amazing because I can reverse this reflex using tiny acupuncture needles around the area, and it actually opens the blood flow back up bringing oxygen and healing chemicals to the area, reversing this spiral of pain and spasm. And I went way more in depth on that as well last week, but I just wanted to recap that with you. And my goal was to bring you 5 new technologies out there that are helping thousands of people right here in Acadiana get over their chronic pain once and for all. So here's the thing. We don't have to hit the magic bullet with these. One of these things might not help you completely, but if I do 5 things and each one of them just helps you 20%, we're all the way there. We've solved it. So don't think of this as, well, I tried that and it didn't help me, or it helped me a little bit. If each one of these things just helps you 15 or 20%, we're all the way there. So on last week's show, I got 2 of them and ran out of time, and I'm going to have time today to cover at least 3 others, and we'll do that right after this break. But if you're listening out there to the show today, and you have a health problem and haven't found a solution to it, I would love to have a phone conversation, just a simple phone conversation with you to discuss it, to see if I could help you. My purpose for doing this show and for going to work every day is to try to help as many people as I possibly can get over their health problems once and for all. That's my purpose. That's my passion. So if you want to call 837-7174 and leave your name and number on my voicemail, when I get to work Monday, I'm obviously not at work today, it's Saturday, but when I get to work Monday, I'll call you and talk to you about ways that I think maybe I can help you. And if I don't think I can help you, well, I won't waste your time. My number's 837-7174, or you can just simply text PAIN to 77453. And your number will pop right up on my computer, and I'll call you Monday, and listen, we'll figure this thing out together. So it's 837-7174, or text PAIN to 77453, and you can get our other locations numbers on our Facebook page at the Bright Wellness Institutes. We'll be right back. Welcome back to another edition of Get Well Acadiana with Dr. Kevin. Thank you so much for returning with us today on the show. We're in the middle of a discussion on natural solutions for chronic pain. And here's the thing to keep in mind with this. Like I was saying before the break, we don't have to find the magic bullet with these things. And I tell people this all the time. So people are used to, in traditional medicine, one diagnosis, one solution. Your body is really too complicated for that. Generally, people have multiple things going on at once. So if I do 5 things and each one of them just helps you a little bit, if each one of them helps you 20%, we're all the way there. We're done. And the way functional medicine and wellness works is we treat things from several different angles at one time. There's almost never one answer for a problem. The human body is so complex, each patient has a different set of problems with a different set of solutions. If I do 5 things to you and 4 of them help you 20% and one of them doesn't do anything, well, we're 80% better, and of course we're going to be happy with that. So far, we talked about 2 really profound advancements. One is called rapid release, and the other one is called dry needling using acupuncture needles. And the next thing that I wanted to talk to you about, guys, and this is a big one, and that's called cold laser therapy. We are now doing some truly amazing things with laser. First of all, I need to tell you, this laser is not the burning ones like they take tattoos off with. It's less than that. It's not as hot as those lasers. It's called cold laser because it doesn't burn you. It doesn't heat up. But they have figured out a way to tune a laser beam to dramatically reduce almost all chronic pain syndromes by working on a chemical called COX inhibitors. One study published in the American Orthopedics of Foot and Ankle found that low-level lasers demonstrated promising results for the treatment of acute and chronic pain, and the mean improvement was 67.8 out of 100. That blows every other thing they've ever looked at away. Another study in the Journal of Physical Medicine and Rehab, October 2004, to investigate low-level laser, that's a mouthful, therapy, effects on stress proteins from chronic pain, found it to be tremendously effective. And I have a whole file cabinet full of laser research that I don't want to bore you guys with that, but I know you don't enjoy looking at research papers like I do. I had to learn all that stuff. You guys don't. But cold laser therapy affects chronic pain at a chemical level through something called COX inhibitors. But all of the studies are showing tremendous promise using cold laser therapy for almost all chronic pain syndromes. And fortunately, we have a cold laser available right here in Acadiana at Bryant Wellness, and it's completely pain-free, it's 100% non-invasive, and there are zero side effects whatsoever. And that's what's so neat about this. Plus, it's tremendously effective. And when you couple that with the rest of our protocols, it starts to really make sense how we can solve these patients' problems after they've been everywhere and feel like they've tried everything. And the next thing that I wanted to talk to you guys about, and this is another really big one, and that is disc problems. So let's take a short break, and I'm going to dive into disc problems and MRIs and all the details about that whenever we get back, because that's something that takes a little bit of time. And after this break, you're going to learn that the MRI might not just be as important as you once thought it was. So don't go away. You're going to want to hear my take on the MRI. But during the break, if you'd like to talk to me about your individual health problems to see if I think my protocols might be able to help you, all you have to do is call my office at 837-7174 and leave your name and number on my machine. And when I get back to work Monday, I will personally give you a call on the phone and we can talk about what's going on with you. It's 837-7174. And if you're in the New Iberia area, you can call our other office at 367-2567 or simply text PAIN to 77453 and your number will pop right up on my computer Monday and I can give you a call. So all I'll have is your phone number. I won't have your name, but that's okay. We can figure that out when I call you. But you can text PAIN to 77453 or call 837-7174 and leave your name and number on my machine. MRIs and disc problems when we get back. Welcome back to Get Well Acadiana with Dr. Kevin. We are deep in the discussion about chronic pain today, and I know thousands of you out there listening are suffering with chronic pain. And sometimes we don't even want to admit we're suffering, but, you know, if you have pain and it's something that you've been dealing with a while, and even if it's preventing you from feeling your best or preventing you from doing any of your activities, to me, that's kind of suffering. And I want you to know there are better answers out there than what you're doing. We've made tremendous advancements in drug-free, surgery-free solutions to chronic pain syndromes. And we're discussing some of those on the show today. Now, the next topic that I wanted to discuss with you today is disc problems. I could actually do a whole show on disc problems. Spinal problems are the number one disabling thing in America in people over 45 years old. Well, why is that? Because no one maintains or takes care of their spine over their lifetime. What I mean by that is that everybody knows to brush their teeth. Everybody knows to get checked for cavities. People have been taught that their teeth needs maintenance in order to keep them in good shape. But for some reason, no one maintains or takes care of their spine in any way whatsoever. It's like your spine is just supposed to maintain and take care of itself. And I'm not sure how we got that idea, but that's not the way the body works. Your spine is a very complex part of your body, and it needs to be maintained and taken care of. I always tell people, if your spine were on your face and you could see it when you smiled, you would take way better care of it. But the truth is, your spine cannot just sort of self-maintain and take care of itself. People need to have their spine maintained and checked and treated throughout their whole life. So what ends up happening is that we abuse our spines literally from the time we're born. Coming through the birth canal is a trauma, falling 200 times, learning to walk, and then you have the bicycle accidents and skateboards and falling out of tree houses and football and wrestling with the cousins and poor posture in college and car accidents and work injuries and gym injuries, and all of these things add up. So the average person has had 1,000 physical traumas to their body that they didn't think was a big deal, but it was enough to cause problems when you add them all up. I see chronic pain patients every day that have been told they have disc problems, bulges, herniations, ruptures, slipped discs. So I wanted to spend a little bit of time today talking about disc problems. And before I give you the best solution for disc problems, I want to start by saying that all of the new research proves something that I've been saying for a while, and that is that there's been too much made out of disc problems over the last 20 or 30 years. What I mean by that is so many people have been told their pain is from disc problems. And that's somewhat outdated. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but I'm just saying there's been way too much made out of it. It really is sort of 90s technology, to be honest with you. So it's not that disc problems don't exist, but it's that people feel like that when they figure out what their discs are doing, they have their final answer. So they have disc herniations or ruptures, and they feel like that's what's causing their problem. I want you to imagine your disc as being flexible, like the tires on your car. So if you've ever pulled your car up a little bit too far into a parking space, and you pull forward into a curb and your tire bulges out on both sides, well, when you back up, the tire goes back into shape, correct? And all of the new spinal research shows that function is way more important than structure. So what do I mean by that? What I mean is an MRI shows structure, it doesn't show function. Function means how does it work? How it actually bends and moves and flexes and turns and rotates. So here's the problem that I have with MRIs. Any of you out there that have ever had an MRI, what's the first two things they tell you when you go to do that? Lay down and don't move. Well, think about this for a second. Your spine is designed to do what? It's designed to be gravity bearing, meaning you're standing up, and it's designed for motion, meaning function, meaning it's designed to flex and bend and turn and rotate and move. So when you go do an MRI and they tell you lay down and don't move, they ignore the two most important components that you need to determine the function of the spine, weight bearing and motion. So we end up taking someone with functional problems in their spine, meaning something is not working correctly, and we take gravity and motion out of the picture and have them lay down and do an MRI of their spinal discs. And I'm not saying that MRI has no benefits whatsoever. Of course it does. But it's not the final end-all, be-all to everything that has been portrayed in the public eye. Patients often come into my office with an MRI in their hand, and they hold it like it's the answer to everything, like it's the final decision, the best technology out there to determine their spinal problem. The truth is, it's not. All of the research is showing function is more important than structure. Have you ever heard the term form follows function? It's true here as well. Disc follows function. How it works, basically how it works, is more important than how it looks. In our program, we do something called motion study radiography, which puts these two vital components, gravity and motion, back in play when we look at spinal problems. So basically you're standing up and we're putting your spine through motion, bending, flexing, and turning while you're gravity bearing, and we can x-ray that motion. Now you can see spinal function, which is so more important than having you lay down, not moving, and an MRI and tell you your discs are bulging. The neat thing about this is you don't even have to be able to read x-rays to look at this motion study radiography and tell there's a problem. You can see what's working and what's not working. I can put it up and show it to you, and it's very obvious. So I'm not saying MRIs don't have a place. I'm just saying there's now new technology to where we can see what an MRI can't see. But disc problems do happen, and when they do, we have some really amazing technology in order to reduce them without surgery. You know, the Cincinnati College of Medicine reviewed records from 1,450 patients that have been diagnosed with disc issues, and after just 2 years, just 26% of them that had surgery returned to work. That's compared to 67% who did not have surgery returned to work. And although we have a whole treatment protocol for patients that have had failed back surgery, it's much easier to work on someone before surgery is performed. Catching problems before surgery is ideal. Now, one of the true breakthroughs in non-surgical disc repair is called spinal decompression. This technique was researched by the world's leading medical doctors, one of which was Dr. Norman Shealy, who's an MD and PhD from Harvard Medical School, and the other one was Dr. McClure, another Harvard researcher, and then also Dr. Krimchek even looked at this. Dr. Krimchek is one of the top orthopedic surgeons in the country. He's the man whenever it comes to orthopedics. So if you're Peyton Manning or you're Drew Brees or you're a major league pitcher and you need orthopedic surgery, Dr. Krimchek is probably going to be the one doing it. So these three researchers looked at decompression, and they found when done correctly, which is important, when done correctly, 92% of the patients got well and avoided surgery. After 2 years, the percentage was still 86%, which is unheard of in the healthcare field. That's an unheard of success rate. There's no other treatment that can come close to that. There's no other treatment that can even do half of that. Because remember, only 26% return to a normal life after surgery. Now, Dr. Fontenot and I are both nationally certified in the proper application of decompression. There's other places doing it, but if they're not licensed in it and given board exams and the proper application, it may not be being done correctly. In which case, that 92% success rate goes way down if it's not applied correctly. So you really have to know what you're doing with this. I've seen some really bad applications of this therapy. I've seen people put on upside down backwards. I've seen some real bad applications of this therapy. The cold laser therapy that we talked about earlier is also amazing for disc problems as well. Well, guys, I'm out of time again. I have so much more that I could talk to you about whenever it comes to chronic pain, but the body is so complicated. We have to be able to sit down and take a real look at all of the underlying causes of these complex pain disorders, and then take the time to develop a comprehensive strategy to fix all of the factors, all of the underlying issues that are causing patients to deal with pain on a regular basis. You can't figure this out in a 3-minute office visit. And we don't do 3-minute office visits at Bryant Wellness. Well, thank you all so much for joining me today. I really appreciate you all taking your time to listen to the show and to learn ways to improve your health and live a longer, better life. You know, guys, we're only given a certain number of days here on this planet, and those days are short. And to spend part of those days not being your best or avoiding activities or not feeling how you could feel is a real shame. If you'd like to talk to me about your individual health problems to see if I might be able to help you, you're more than welcome to call my office at 837-7174 and leave your name and number on my machine. And when I get back Monday, I'll give you a call and have a conversation about what's going on. We'll sit down and take a look at this and see whether or not I think I can help you. And if I can't help you, I won't waste your time. My number's 837-7174. 7174 or simply text PAIN to 77453 and your number will pop right up on my computer and I can give you a call and we'll take a look at it. So that's text PAIN to 77453, or if you want to call our New Iberia office, the number is 367-2567, or join us on Facebook at the Bright Wellness Institute. Thank you all for joining me. Pray for our friends to the west. Donate, support, do what you can. Thank you all for joining me. Have a good week.